You think Common Ground is worth a buck? Consider leaving a tip at lptv.org. Lakeland Public Television presents Common Ground, brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Hi, I'm John Parsons. How do you reclaim an old barn? We find out in this episode of Common Ground.
Hi, I'm Tim,
Hi, I'm Mary.
and you're here at Tootsie B in our old reclaimed barn. Well, first of all, it's a reclaimed barn from northern Minnesota, not far from here, and a lot of these old barns just fall down, and thankfully the people that had this one saw that there was some value in it and hated to see it just fall down, so they advertised it for sale rather than just letting it rot. So if more people would do that with a lot of the old things, that would be great. Well, we went to look at this old barn, and it had some structural problems. The foundation was falling away, and the roof was getting bad from trees rubbing on it over the years and was starting to let water in, and so it wouldn't have been long and there wouldn't have been enough to salvage. Fortunately, they had the foresight to advertise it, and so we bought it anyway. So my wife and I took this down, the two of us, by ourselves, completely disassembled it board by board, de-nailed it, brought it home, stored it, and then eventually put it back up where it's sitting today. It took us months. Yeah, we started in the late fall, early winter, and then we finished up in real early spring. Of course, we didn't do it every day as the weather was conducive and we felt up to it, and we're getting older. Being a builder, I understood that, okay, this is just a big shell. If you were taking down a home that had all these interior partitions and everything else, it'd be so much more labor intense, and a barn is a big open building with a floor in it. Loose hay and cows on the bottom, and that was it. So to me, it wasn't that big of a challenge. Okay, we take the roof off and we take the walls down. That's not a big deal. When we rebuilt the barn, we would do is we would get a load on the truck, we would work and take it down and de-nail it and load it on the truck and come home, and I'd drive in and unload the truck, and Mary would make supper, and by the time I was done unloading the truck and stacking it all, supper would be ready, and then we'd do it again. Well, it fit in that gray shed back there, so it took up both sides with room to drive through still. I would say it was 40 feet long by 10 feet wide by 8 feet high, 2 piles. And when we were taking down the barn, my wife said, "You sure we know what we're doing?"
And his response was, "Honey, gravity is on our side."
We think it's a pretty cool old structure that we hope will stand for a long time. There's a story behind just about every piece here. When we were taking down the big rafters that form the radius of the roof of the barn, we found a gentleman's name, Einar Olson. He wrote it in big cursive. It was very easy to read, and I'm a carpenter myself, and I tend to put my name in places that I think somebody will find them someday as I'm building things. So I understand his thought process when he did that. He was proud of his work, and I was glad he had signed the barn in several places. There was some of the old original material stored in the soffits when they built the barn that just never got used and got tossed in there, and so we found some of that. And the trolley system was intact. As a matter of fact, that rope on the front of the barn is the original rope that was with the barn. They used to use horses when they built these barns, and that's how they would get the hay up there. When we found the barn, the big old hay door that's about 12 feet by 8 feet was hanging in the down position, and so that big door that would have been the hay door is now closed permanently because I don't want pigeons in there. But the lower door, that small one, actually opens up to my wood shop. And it's kind of handy for getting materials in and out, light and air, and so that's a functional door, that smaller one in the middle. The old trolley system was completely intact on the barn. and it's got pulleys on it for raising the hay up and down, and we put a big bucket on there and put flowers in it and would raise it up to the height we wanted it, but the grandkids got a hold of the rope and drug it all the way to the top, and in order to get it down I need to set scaffolding up. So someday I'll get that bucket back down. We usually put flowers and things in there, but the grandkids like to pull on the rope, so it's that Knudsen in them, I think. When we were bargaining with the owner of the barn, he wanted $500 for the old galvanized cupola that was up there, and Mary and I didn't really care for that cupola, especially for $500, so I agreed to take it off the barn and give it to him. And so that cupola I built to sort of match the look of the barn, which is fairly common in barn building in some areas. The new one that's up there has windows that open so I can get out on the roof if I need to work on the weather vane or something like that. We employed some different construction techniques. We raised up the floor downstairs. It used to be a 7-foot ceiling because it was an old dairy barn, and now it's a 10-foot high ceiling. And the old floor used to interrupt the wall framing at 7 feet, and so the top 3 feet of wall were weakened. The wall was notched for the floor, and so it was starting to bow. And by moving that floor up, that added to the engineering and strength of the building. Well, all these old barns, when they were built, they didn't have the luxury of sheet goods, and we do today. And sheet goods have a lot of structural integrity, so I put plywood on all these walls before I sided them, so the siding will never have to hold the barn. In the old days, they would just nail the siding on, and when the barn started to lean a little bit, they'd put more nails in and nail her off some more, so the siding held the building, pretty much braced it. And if the barn started to lean a little bit, they'd put more nails in it, and many of those boards had 4 nails where they originally had 2, and then they'd, put another one in, then put another one in, and that's how they kept them up. And so when we rebuilt it, we sheeted it and then sided it, so it will stand for a long time. We added dormers to the upstairs roof so that we get some natural light in the loft upstairs, and it adds some character to the outside of the barn, and now it's much better. When we took this barn down, it wasn't 100% whole, so you end up with probably 75 to 80% of what you need to put it back up. So this siding here was reclaimed off of another barn that was falling down because I could match the patina fairly well. A good customer of ours told us about a house that had burnt, that the porch was still intact, and so we were able to negotiate for that porch and reclaim it. It has sort of a nautical look, which is somewhat appropriate since we're on the banks of the Mississippi headwaters. And part of the deal was that I would build her a porch swing stand out of some of the old reclaimed material, and the rest of it we used to put the lean-to on the barn behind us. So it worked out well for both of us. She got a beautiful old porch swing stand, and we've got a beautiful lean-to on our barn. This porch swing was made from reclaimed architectural moldings and porch corbels, and there's a couple of door jambs underneath there that are the support for the swing. That was bought by a lady, and I need to build her a stand for it because she doesn't have a porch, unfortunately. But I do that. I build stands. But that's all reclaimed material with the exception of the chain. Yeah, the other porch swing you see there is made from reclaimed old growth mahogany. It's beautiful wood. And then there's the spindles on the arms are old maple armchair spindles, and it's all repurposed, again, except for the chains. I like to put those on new. And the term millwork means that it's been milled. This would be considered millwork, this top piece, because it's been milled at a specific shape. This is just what I would call flat stock mahogany, but it's old growth mahogany, real tight grain, hard mahogany, not like what we normally see around here. I'm gonna take a guess and say it's Honduras mahogany. I don't know that for a fact, it was reclaimed, but it's beautiful wood. These wind chimes are made from recycled liquor bottles. On a rainy day, you wouldn't believe how nice it is to sit on a porch because you're outside. We sit out there and play Scrabble, just watch it rain. There's something comforting about sitting on a porch in the rain. We spend a lot of time there. It's such a wonderful feature of old homes that unfortunately they don't do much anymore. Now, those dragonflies are probably our most popular item. And they're made from architectural millwork again, all various shapes. And then we use spindles for the body and doorknobs, cabinet knobs, different accessories for the heads and tails and eyes, and people love them. We can't seem to keep enough of them. We sold out at Art in the Park last year and had to make more that evening, so we didn't realize how popular they'd be, but they're very unique and they're all repurposed old furniture legs and millwork cut into the shape of dragonfly wings and doorknobs and things like that. So they're fairly unique. Each one is different. The old material is a far better grade of material, but it also has some defects from time. It has nails in it. Some of it we consider character, some of it we have to work out of it. The quality of wood is better than what I can buy today, and so I really enjoy being able to reclaim and reuse some of the older woods. They were allowed to grow longer, tighter grain. It's kind of a pleasure to have that. I have quite an abundance of it that I make things from, and I appreciate the older woods. There are a lot of challenges working with the reclaimed material as opposed to the new material. There's what the weather has done to it, how it fits in your saw, the nails, the fasteners that were in it as it went through the years. It's harder on my equipment and I have to take more time with it. I have to be more selective on what I use, so your saw blades don't last as long. The good thing is the character from the old use, whether it be a nail hole, an old hinge mortise, something like that gives character, and people who buy our porch swings love that stuff. You can see the square nail. A lot of times I'll leave the head of the nail in the board and then poly over it, and they love that, and I do too. And so you know that it's an old board. It is challenging because it's hard on equipment, but it's worth the effort because you've reclaimed it. It didn't go into a landfill or a fire. It's got some history. We find it intriguing. A lot of the old millwork is more appealing to the eye than what they have today, that most people can afford at least. A lot more craftsmanship went into it in the old days, and I appreciate that. And when we see the inside of the store, you'll see that everything in there is all repurposed old millwork, what we would call fancy today and way out of the norm of what anybody would use or could afford to use today. And so we try to reclaim as much as we can, because the grain is tighter, it's old growth material, it's a much higher grade of material than what I can go to the store and buy today. It's got so much more character than the new stuff that I can buy. Granted, it's probably easier for somebody to go and buy square, flat, reasonably straight material. Not that it would stay that way, but it's a challenge to work with the reclaimed material.
Well, located in our barn, I have a life's dream, and it's called Tootsie B. It's a clothing boutique. I love the feminine styles. The clothing that I have here represents that. Hi, welcome to Tootsie B. In our entryway, a nice feature here is this ceiling light that is a number of different lamps put together to make one fabulous chandelier. The entry doors as you come in are reclaimed French doors from a local antique store. We found them. Coming further in, we have a dressing room here where you can try on any one of our fabulous outfits, and the valance into that area is a headboard that has been just flipped upside down, and so you can appreciate the beautiful carving on it. The mirror also is an old dresser that we just cut down and have installed it over the mirror as just an added feature there. The porch post that is cut in half the long ways and doorknobs attached to it is where you can hang your clothing when you're trying on something new. I'd like to show you a really good example of repurposing. This happens to be a coat that I've made, but I have it displayed on a porch post. These are arms off of a chair, and this is one of the feet off of a chair, and it stands on a weighted lamp base.
Also, that door, we happened to see a house being torn down on Bemidji Avenue, and so that's a beautiful old beveled glass door. And we stopped and said, hey, what are you going to do with that door? Oh, do you want it? Yes, that's a beautiful old door. So that was destined for the dump, and we saved that.
The old wire mannequin is kind of an example to me personally of ladylike femininity, and that is my advertising catchphrase, embracing ladylike femininity. And so I like to include that mannequin on all of my correspondence and advertising. Here against this wall, we have this triple mirror that we salvaged from a store in town as well. Up here on this little pedestal, we've got an old clawfoot tub that is used as a place for display. If you look up on the ceiling, we have a light cove. The cove is some of our reclaimed architectural molding that my husband has made into a light cove. The ceiling is reclaimed ceiling tins that came out of a church. We found those on eBay. All of the windows and baseboard in the entire store is the reclaimed molding that we got out of Georgia. We also found this great piece of gingerbread that came out of Chicago. I found that at a garage sale. We heat this entire building with old radiators. Also, we installed in this partition wall an old round-top window that just kind of creates a fabulous display area for some of the repurposed men's ties that I make into belts. The window, of course, it's so used that you could never use it in an exterior wall, but it's a very nice decorative thing to have. This used to be the part of the barn that was my sewing room, and since Tim gave up his wood shop, I gave up my sewing room, and we expanded this last winter for more display area. We used an old screen door right here as a way to display jewelry. This grouping of items, the ball beads and the skeleton keys, are made locally by Mary Jo Dahl, and it's all copper clad with glass. And another local artist, Lynn Studansky, she does lamp work. These are all handmade glass. She also has seed pod that she has clad with copper. If you shake it, you can hear the seed inside, and it's just a pendant. Put it on a chain. The colonnade that Tim installed in here is a beautiful old piece out of a fabulous house in Dubuque, Iowa. Typically, a colonnade is just basically a room divider, but a very fancy room divider. You'd set plants on the little short walls and keep your china in the fantastic built-in. This colonnade helps to bring you back to when times were much simpler. This is an example of one of the signs that I make, and it pretty much sends it all back to the simple life. In the corner of this room, I have a ladder that we picked up at an auction, and we're told it came out of the Swedmark's hardware hank here in Bemidji. And right next to it is a cabinet that belonged to my grandfather, who was the postmaster in Longville, I don't know, 100 years ago or so. And that was the cabinet that he used to keep all his important postal things in. You know, I have a few vintage things in here, but not a lot. The case is full of old shoes and the old handheld mirrors.
We just got done remodeling Naylor's into Trek School, and this belonged to Bob Naylor's parents. It actually works. It's really cool. I giggle every time I turn it on. It actually feels kind of good on your back. And it works like a charm. Probably didn't get overused.
I want to make sure that you notice one of the most unique things about Tootsie B, and that is the main chandelier, which is an old lampshade. I love the shabbiness of it, and so we gave it a centerpiece location in our shop. We also have, as a great little display area, this reclaimed porch. Includes the railing that we got all of this at a salvage warehouse in Minneapolis, and the gingerbread, the little stick and ball that goes along with it, and thought, you know what? Porches don't always have to be outside. Sometimes they can be inside, and it's a unique little feature at Tootsie B as well. My cash counter here is an old desk, and we made a new top for it, and I did a china mosaic on it. These are just old china dishes that were part of the dishes that we used for our wedding reception, as well as some family pieces, including a brooch that was my mother's.
This is something, that old picture rail is something you don't see in homes anymore, but that's a pretty cool thing that we actually use for displaying items on. And that's how they did it in the old days, so they didn't put holes in the walls. They were quite the decorative item in the old days. So it's, I enjoy all of the architectural detail that was in the older buildings that you don't see in the new buildings today. We looked at an old home yesterday. We walked in and it was a 2-story big home, and all the millwork had been taken out, and it was this skinny little modern stuff, and the character was gone in there, and it was fairly sterile. I was disappointed. I was hoping to see this grandeur that I see in the older homes that normally you would see, but that one, it was gone. So I think that's a base from an old heater that flower pot is sitting in. Looks really nice as a flower pot. And my wife has the eye for that sort of stuff. She comes up with the ideas and then I try to make them. If there's any building involved, then she makes some stuff, but I get involved in it quite a bit. And my only fear, though, is that she'll learn to weld. Well, I think it really is good and healthy for our economy to repurpose and reuse. We have plenty of good, valuable resources right here within our reach. We don't need to receive goods from overseas. We really don't save money doing that because you know, it takes food or money out of a person's pocket that lives here in this country, and it also encourages bad behavior in other countries where slave labor and prison labor and things like that produce those goods. The pioneers who settled this area didn't throw things away. Well, they didn't have a dump to go to. They didn't have a recycling center either. So they would look at an object when they were finished with its original intended purpose and say, what are we going to do with this? And they would find another use for it. It may end up heating their home, but chances are it found some other useful purpose first. So they didn't really throw things out like the disposable society that we live in today does. Recycling is great, but repurposing is even better because it gives it new life, a better life, I guess. Our parents' generation was such that you didn't throw anything away that was at all useful. And so we learned that from them, and we kind of feel like we throw too much stuff in the dump, in the trash. And so being able to recognize the beauty of some things or the usefulness of some things means a lot to us. We'll say, hey, we can make something out of that, or that's really cool for this, or, you know, yeah, that used to be an old shed for something else, but now it's going to be a chicken coop, or we're not going to throw that out yet. So I know Mary's dad was that way, and my parents were too. I came from a family of 12 children, so everything was hand-me-down, and we just learned to appreciate having something rather than throwing something out.
One of the thrills about repurposing things is to see that it can have a longer life as something else. To just throw it away seems like such a waste. Why not make it into something new and continue to use it and continue to enjoy it?
Most of the things that we repurpose are things that were made in America, are some pretty good quality goods. And much of the things that get thrown away these days, they've been made cheaply, probably from a third world country where the people are oppressed. And so we just appreciate the things that we have. A lot of good resources in this country, and we like to not throw them out.
Repurposing items is fun. You feel like you have empowerment, control over your life instead of everything is just use it and throw it away. You
make it into something fun.
Yeah.
And you just feel better about, well, you know, it's good for the environment, it's good for your self-esteem. You have created something that no one else has before. So if you'd use your imagination and a little bit of confidence, you'd be amazed at what you could do.
Well, allows you to express your creativity.
Yes.
Repurposing items within a household is a great way to stretch the family budget. You don't always have to go buy a new container. When you buy something in bulk, you can use some old jars or old canisters are like the pioneers used, and plus it's decorative in your kitchen. Well, my dream was to have a clothing boutique, and I just never expected I would ever get to have that because it's fairly far-fetched, or it has been until I came across Tim's path, and being a carpenter and Prince, he gave me my dream. And when we had the barn, it seemed like a logical place to have a very unique setting, as well as unique items. We try to have things that are one of a kind here, and I really think we've achieved that.
Yeah, well, except for the only problem is that I don't sew, but Mary's in my wood shop all the time. So that's really the biggest problem that we have here.
He didn't ask for problems.
Heaven help us if she learns to weld.
Yeah, well, don't touch my sewing machine, honey. Tootsie B is a nickname that my mother gave me as a small girl.
Actually, Mary's mom passed away a couple of years ago, but she had all white hair. And when this tree is in full bloom, it always reminded me of her, because just the way her hair was, that tree just reminded me of her. But the kids love to climb in, and it's an easy tree for them to climb. They climb up and sit up there and hang out, and the dogs are buried under it. And there's a lot of history and memories with that tree.
Thanks for watching. Join me again next time for another episode of Common Ground. If you have an idea for a Common Ground piece that pertains to North Central Minnesota, email us at legacy@lptv.org or call us 218-333-3022. To view any episode of Common Ground online, visit us at lptv.org. To order individual segments or entire episodes of Common Ground, please call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people on the 4th of November, 2008.